7:03, so we're going to start now. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Catherine Espana. I am a pediatrician in Houston, Texas. I own my own practice here. I used to be in a big hospital before, but I've been on my own for almost 10 years now. And so I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about what phototherapy and autism and what are the things that we have noticed, or I have noticed in the past 10 months or so since I have been using a specific technology that I call it wearable phototherapy. So first thing I want to share with you guys is that, autism, believe it or not, affects about 1 in 36 children in the United States now. Of course, there's lots of theories of why is it caused? Is it genetic? Is it a, medical injury? Is it a virus? Is it, something that turned something on in them? I personally feel like there is a strong genetic component and something triggers it, similar to diabetes, which is what we see, but nothing has been really proven so far. What we do know is that boys are diagnosed twice as much as girls are. And so what is it? It's a neurological developmental disorder that begins in childhood and most likely continues to adulthood, okay? So the main characteristics are they tend to have social interaction difficulties, communication difficulties, along with sometimes restricted or repetitive behaviors or movements. It is clinically very complex, and the severity of the symptoms actually vary widely among individuals, which is why we usually now call it a spectrum. So I tell a lot of people when they tell me it's been diagnosed so much, I say, well, maybe we are seeing more of it, but it's also because we're diagnosing it more. So I am 46 years old. I don't mind, saying it. I've been practicing for, 18 years, pediatrics. And I can tell you that way when I started, or actually when I was in school, like middle school or anything, the kids that were over here that were very high functioning, those kids were never diagnosed. They were maybe said, oh, they're socially awkward, they're just shy, they don't have that many friends. And the kids that were on the other side of the spectrum that were very severely affected, a lot of times were just called mental retardation, or they just had something else going on, but it wasn't necessarily called autism. So I feel like now we have a wide range. And again, it's a very complex disorder, but that's the reason why now we say, well, a child that's on the spectrum, they can be, on either side of the scale. So the key changes in brain structure and function, this has actually been known, has been tested, it's all over studies, is that we notice that there's an imbalance of the functional neuronal connectivity. Fancy words to say that their brain is not talking very well. So normally all the neurons and the connectivity in your brain, I explain it like this sometimes with kids, and it's the same thing that happens with ADHD. It should fit properly, meaning that all the neurons are talking to each other in your nervous system, and for some reason there is a couple that are not fitting correctly and they're not able to talk to each other, and that's what causes some of the symptoms. There has also been shown that there's a lot of more neuronal deaths. That means that the neurons in the brain tend to die sooner because they have mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning the mitochondria is the cell in your body, or is the part of the cell that actually deals with energy and helps with oxidative stress. So these kids can't handle that very well, which is why you hear also that they're not able to detox or get rid of certain toxins in their body as easy as others. So it causes a lot of oxidative stress that then secondarily can actually cause issues with their brain cells. It's also been known that there's lots of inflammation. So there's lots of inflammation in the brains of these kiddos. And believe it or not, a lot of times they see an increased size of the cerebral cortex, meaning they actually have a bigger brain. It's just not functioning correctly. So many conditions are associated. It does not mean that every kid with autism has this, but there are some conditions that are associated, like sensory motor abnormalities, epilepsy, sleeping disorders. A lot of them have issues of falling asleep. ADHD for sure, maintaining focus and being a little bit more hyperactive. And recently, a lot of people have been talking about the microbiome problems and issues that they have in their gut, and their digestive system also has something to do with this too. So there's two different types the way that I see about therapies. The therapies that you're seeing there on the left are the typical treatments that most likely your pediatrician talk to you, if you have a child on the spectrum. We start with therapy, and the earlier that you do therapy, specifically ABA therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, it definitely has been shown that it helps these kiddos a lot. The earlier you start, the better. Then you can do supplements like melatonin, fatty acids like omega-3s, vitamin C, digestive enzymes. Lots and lots of supplements are out in the market that whether you're a pediatrician or your natural medicine doctor, if you're seeing one, can definitely recommend. And then eventually some medications like risperidone or stimulants, to control moods or focus. Those definitely are used very often. And then everything on the right is what we call regenerative therapy. So acupuncture, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, chelation therapy to help with the detox, nutrition. We have dietary restrictions and special diets that people try to see whether it's gluten-free or if it's dairy-free, to see maybe that has a lot of impact. And it's been shown that to many kids it does, as well as making sure that we're eating healthy, we're eating organic, so we have less toxins in our body, no dyes and those type of things, no sugar as well. And then we have phototherapy. So phototherapy originally, when people talk to me about phototherapy, the first thing that I think is when I put little babies underneath a blue light, and that blue light does magic. It goes into their skin and it sort of tells the body that they have to get rid of the bilirubin through their urine or their stool. So it changes that molecule so they're able to get rid of it, and then they don't have jaundice anymore. So we use that in pediatrics every day, all the time. So what happens, I wanted to show you guys when I started doing some research, when I started using this therapy myself, I noticed that all of the research on this therapy that I'm going to talk to you guys about with LifeWave is done on older individuals, right? And that's because it deals with stem cells, and we know that older individuals tend to have less stem cells. And so they decided to do all of their testing on them. Also because it's just really rare that you'll get testing on kids on anything like this. But I found this study when I was trying to get ready for this talk that talks about lights on for autism, exploring photobiomodulation, fancy word, similar to phototherapy. And it could be an effective therapeutic option. Again, this was actually using an outside lamp and having people go, several times a week for a certain amount of time to get this phototherapy done. And the results were that photobiomodulation actually has a neuroprotective effect that helps create a balance between that connectivity and improves also its survival. So it kind of like turns on the neurons to be able to make sure that they can talk to each other. And it also helps with reducing inflammation and with the oxidative stress. And so the neurons are not dying as fast. It also has been shown, actually, the phototherapy in this study to alter and help the diversity of the microbiome, which is your gut that people hear about all the time. So in general, it just helps the neurons to be healthier and activating their function and making them a little bit more resistant to that stress. So that brings me to the technology I wanted to talk to you guys about. So me and my husband, so I'm a pediatrician, my husband's an OB-GYN. We've been using this technology for almost 11 months now. And it really has changed our lives, meaning I personally have a lot of arthritis in my knees and my hips because I used to be a dancer before I was a doctor. And literally I'm bone on bone. And I would have to do lots of stretching exercises because, when you're hurting, you walk a different way to make sure it doesn't hurt. So then other parts of your body get tense. So it was highly affecting my hips, which were very tense, secondarily giving me sciatic pain. And it would come and go. But in general, I always would wake up very, very tight in the morning. So one of the things I noticed as I was going down the stairs, my knees weren't hurting. My body felt more relaxed. I started sleeping better. My husband, same thing, way more energy. He would be in the OR doing surgery for hours on end. He would come back and his back was awful. And he was like, wow, I'm not noticing that anymore. So there's lots and lots of effects that I'm going to tell you about. But interestingly enough, I actually have my patch back here today. It's actually time for me to take it off. I want to show you guys. It is essentially like a sticker, okay? It is kind of crazy that a little sticker like this, you see it has that little white part in the middle. Those are little microcrystals. Those crystals get activated with our body heat. So we as humans have energy. Our body is actually, interestingly enough, I was listening to Dr. David Smith the other day, who is the inventor and the owner of the company. And he says, your body is what makes your body go. It's actually communication and energy. If cells don't have enough energy, and if your cells can't communicate with each other, then your body can't work very well. And so what this does is that it activates with our own energy that we have. It acts as a mirror per se, and it injects that light back into us. I know it sounds like science fiction. Trust me, when people talk to me about this about a year and a half ago, I paid no attention to it. I thought they were crazy. I thought this was maybe voodoo medicine. Until I saw some differences in some really close friends of mine. Then I said, hey, why not? Let me try it myself, my husband, my mom, and see maybe if we notice a difference, which we did. And then that's when I started doing more and more research. So what happens is there's no drugs, there's no chemicals, there's no stimulants. It's non-transdermal, meaning nothing is going into your body. It's similar to like when you're in the sun, the frequency of the sunlight goes into your body, just like the frequency of that light I was talking about in those newborns, and it gives your body instructions to make vitamin D. The sun does. This little patch essentially injects to say very small amount of light at a specific frequency that gives instructions to your body to increment a peptide. That's called a copper peptide. That copper peptide has been known to help with inflammation and regeneration of cells and activating stem cells. So this is actually a study that they did, again, on a 77-year-old woman, because most studies were done in all people older than 60, because by the age of 60, you actually have only 10% of your stem cells active. So the study over here is amazing. It shows how much inflammation of the brain she has. When you have too much inflammation, then it lacks brain coherence. Like it can't talk to each other. It can't work very well, just like the rest of our body as well. But today we're talking about the brain. After 3 weeks of being on this little patch X39, you can tell that the inflammation is almost pretty much gone, and it's sort of improving its coherence and working better. And after 6 weeks, there's a complete turnaround. We see that it's just the brain is better balanced, and we notice a dramatic difference in this person.
That's that all the time on these.
So the benefits of X39 essentially in the studies they have done, again, all of the studies have been in adults, is that it shows reduction of inflammation, it improves sleep, it improves energy and vitality, improves brain fog or more mental clarity. Like I feel so much more focused. And, going through premenopause, I would forget things. I would go into rooms and be like, why am I going here? And I noticed that's definitely not happening again. So during the first days that we're in this patch, the studies have shown that about 4,000 genes are being reestablished. And within 6 weeks, the brain begins to get balanced, like that study I showed. So I apologize. So this is kind of on top of each other, but I started thinking, what are the benefits of X39 in autism? There's no studies on this, but anecdotally, I kept hearing and I kept having people call me and tell me. I ran into one of my friends who she's going to share her story with you guys. And she had told me she had been using this for 2 years on her son, which I was like, wow, I just heard about this. And so she'll tell you her story. But essentially, what I noticed doing the research on what light therapy does and what X39 has done for adults in the studies is that we realize that the reason that it works in autism kids is because it creates a balance in that connectivity of the neurons. It reduces that inflammation they have. So essentially, just like that phototherapy, it really helps the neurons just be healthier, and it kind of turns everything on, and it protects them against oxidative stress. So I wanted to stop sharing here really quick because I have my friend Paola, who I know is going to come on and share her testimony on her son. And then I have a couple of videos that I wanted to share with you guys that unfortunately they could not join us today because they had another event going on, but I have a video from them that I want to share with you guys. So Paola, do you mind sharing your story with your kiddos, please?
Hi, my name is Paola Arbeláez, and I am a mom of a neurodivergent kid. He was diagnosed at 8 years old, kind of late. He's also has ADHD and dyslexia, and I've been using the patches since the beginning of 2023, so almost 2 years. And the first things I've noticed, like many of the moms that might be our kids who have kids on the spectrum, is that they're unable to sleep well through the night. And the first thing I noticed was that he was fully able to, stay asleep through the entire night. He used to go to the restroom a whole lot, and he stopped doing that. He would during the night he would start doing things that usually no kid would do, like start computing things that he didn't finish in school, like mathematical problems, or thinking about historical figures. And so his mind was always on a constant move, especially during the nighttime. And the best thing, the greatest thing that for me that the patches have done for him, it's that sleeping through the night has been accomplished. So that's one of the greatest benefits that I find, that it's, especially for you moms out there that have kids on the spectrum, it takes a long time for them to kind of calm themselves down to, so they can have a really good night's sleep. Another thing that I've noticed is that he's able to regulate. He's more calm. He's more calm. He's more focused. He has dyslexia, and I've noticed recently that his speech and the way that he's able to read now and comprehend, it's a lot faster than it used to be. So I've seen, as we continue to use the patches, I think I see them, I keep on seeing benefits, through this time. So it's one of those things that when you see a little patch like that, you might be, well, what is this? This is kind of crazy that this will give you that many benefits. But to be honest with you guys, I think for me, it has been a great aid for him, because especially I've done everything. I've done diets, I've done all the therapies that you can imagine. I've done the one where you put your kid in those machines to get the oxygen. I've done anything and everything. But this has been a game changer. So if you're even considering or maybe have any more questions, I'm here to answer any of those questions if you're interested to. So that's it. That's my story.
Thank you, thank you. And I mean, to me, I was amazed because I was just starting this and I knew that she had a child on the spectrum and she used to live in Houston. They moved away and we kind of didn't talk to each other for a long, long time. And randomly I saw her on Facebook and I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this?" She's like, "Yeah, I've been using it for 2 years." So, yeah, it's kind of amazing. And that the fact her child is older. How old is Sebastian now? He is,
No, Christian. Christian is 13. But
sorry.
my oldest too, he has Asperger's, which is not as, he doesn't have all the typical things that kids who are more into the spectrum. But he also uses the patches too. Both of my kids use the patch. But my oldest, because of Asperger, he's always overthinking and very nervous. He's more calm.
Okay.
There, because we were told by the doctor that he needed to be on antidepressants or the ones that are anxiety pills. That's what they call,
Mhm.
Catherine, right?
In time
Anxiety
to,
pills.
yeah,
And I said, no, I'm not doing that. So that's also something that, that helps them. It really, really gives that edge where they're always, worrying about things, calms them down too.
good. Thanks. Yeah. So essentially they're teenagers. But the video that I want to show you, it is a smaller child. People ask me all the time, how young can you use these? To be honest with you, I don't know because there's no studies. And so what I usually tell people is they should be able to communicate, and that's what they kind of recommend, as long as sort of they can communicate in case, they're feeling something different or something that you can kind of tell what's going on. Although I do have a couple of people that are trying it on like 22-month-olds that have other issues besides autism. And so it really is up to you. This is not approved for kids. There was no studies done for kids. I know that if I had a child that was affected, I would be patching them all day long because it really, there's no medicine that's going in there. And so it cannot harm them, it can only help them. So the worst thing that can happen is maybe it didn't work. I tried, but it's similar to every other alternative medicine out there. I know most people go for are hearing about stem cell therapy that you have to get outside of the country. It is very costly, and nobody can tell you whether that's going to work either. So most people that do stem cell injections, they go and they wait, and you have to wait a few months to see if you notice a difference, and you might notice a difference or you might not. So I want to share with you guys. I'm going to put on share again. This couple of videos. I might stop it kind of in the middle because it's a little bit long, but I feel like very good.
Bergen County, New Jersey, Javi and I are located in, and we've got 3 beautiful kids of my own and 3 of his own. And one of my children has severe autism. And for so many years, I'm just going to dive right into it. For so many years, we have looked for anything that could possibly help him. And I know that there's probably, how many people do we have on? 290, 291. I know at least half of you know somebody with autism, and that's really low blowing it. Sure. So with that being said, we have been looking and looking and looking for non-traditional ways to help our son have a better quality of life. I have done the biomedical approach. I have gone holistic. I have done nutraceuticals. I have gone hyperbaric chamber. And towards the end, and I spend lots of money for the bare minimum. But as a mom, when you're searching for something, bare minimum is even just the bare minimum is even just that. It gives you that much more hope. It gives you a little light. And then our last option was running into stem cell therapy, stem cell injections. And we had spoken to other friends of ours who had done it and have seen great results with it. We looked into it, and I'm sure if you know anything about stem cell injections, you're usually traveling internationally for it to get a good amount of it. And you have to do it at least twice a year. And in Panama, which is the big one that everyone goes to, Tony Robbins is a big fan of that one. He spends $20,000 a session. So if you want to bring your kid to Panama, you're paying $20,000, and you're hoping that it just does a little something. So we came back home. We always saw stem cell was the most promising for us. And we thought, okay, this is something we're going to have to invest at least once or twice a year. We're going to do this once or twice a year to do it for him. Well, we come back from traveling internationally to get stem cell therapy. We get a phone call from our beautiful friends, Mike and Saeed Hernandez, who I love with all of, to me, they're little angels that came from heaven. They just shared something. And I was the most pessimistic. I said, there's no way, give me a break. Patches, really. And I'll tell you, something clicked and just, thought about it, prayed on it. And I said, what's the worst thing that I can do is nothing. We got those patches mailed to us. They got to us within 2 days. We started putting it on him. And within 1 week, 7 days, we were sitting in the backyard, having a cup of coffee, chatting it up, enjoying our beautiful summer day here in Bergen County, New Jersey, watching our baby swing on the swing. Now, I know to most of you, swinging on the swing seems like a big nothing, but the majority, 98% of autistics in this community have motor challenges. And it's very hard for them to process. So their brain knows exactly what they want to do, but their body can't execute it. So we sat there and we're looking at each other, and I said, is this possible? We were in shock, were we not? Yes. We were in complete shock. And he was swinging. And all summer he swung, and he swung for hours. So I know that if you're in my shoes, you know what I mean when I tell you that my baby's swinging. For any other family that might have never witnessed this, they might not understand, but my son is 9 years old. He has been trying his hardest to swing. He has never been able to. He has been also trying his hardest to get on a bike and ride a bicycle. And we have tried, we put the stick behind the wheel, we're working with him, we're pushing, we're guiding, we're centering, we're doing everything that moms and dads are trying to do to help their babies get on that bike and go. And 4 months later, 5 months later, he brings me the shoes to the Peloton. We have a Peloton, and he's always been wanting to ride the Peloton. He's never been able to. And he gets the shoes, I clip him in, and he goes and he starts to ride. And it was just magic. And ever since then, he's riding bikes, he's on the Peloton, and he's now also, which a lot of people don't know about, that a lot of autistics are able to spell, and through spelling, they can communicate, but they're not spelling writing, because this right here is so incredibly hard for them. We found something where we got a stencil board with letters on it, so 26 letter board, and he's able to point to the letters and he's able to spell. And I know that, if I had the video right now to show you, it would light a fire under your, what, and you would run to everybody that you knew in this community and show them what this patch can do. So I believe that this little patch right now is truly just waking things up, rejuvenating the cells. It's connecting the brain and the body, the motor skills, it's connecting. There's so many things that it's doing that I'm going to tell you right now, mark my words, I will never, ever, ever be traveling internationally for stem cell injections ever again, because
all right, so that's what I wanted to show you with that. I know it's a little bit long, and I have a little bit of this one too, because it's a little bit different. This kid, it is younger, and it's somebody else. And these are people that I know, by the way. I know that it's on Zoom and I know it's on YouTube, but these are people that I've met along the way in the last 10 months. So I actually know who they are. It's not just some random person on YouTube. Here we go.
And he would go 9 months without saying one single thing. And in 6 weeks, he says a new word at a minimum of 2 days a week. So that's a really big deal. We have been through ABA therapy. He's been in speech. He's been in OT. They've gone and been in hyperbaric chambers twice, and nothing. We've been holistic for all along, and organic food, and just, I was so hesitant to do the patches because I was like, these are certainly going to be expensive and it's probably going to be a terrible experience. And it has been the best thing that I've ever done for my kids. I've been using the patches for 6 weeks now. Both of my kids have special needs. My daughter has Down syndrome, and she was really struggling with oppositional defiance disorder and just a lot of anxiety. So she would peel all the skin off of her thumbs as a coping mechanism. And we had tried putting wraps and Band-Aids and saying that hurts so bad, it looks like it hurts. You really don't want to do that. But she just could not stop doing that. And the oppositional defiance disorder, it's just every single thing is a combative conversation. There's just nothing you could say, let's go get ice cream. And you know that she loves ice cream. And it's no, I'm not. And that's just a light example, but it's literally every single moment of your day. And so since starting those patches, I would say she's every bit 70% less combative, which is a really big deal. And she very shortly, I don't know, the first week or two after that, she completely stopped peeling the skin off her thumbs. They're completely healed up now, which is a really big deal for her. And then my son has autism, and it was so funny because the school was heavily suggesting by 4 people out of 6 people in his IEP meeting that we should really talk to his doctor about medicating him. And I was like, I don't want to do that. There's just reasons I don't want to. And so I decided to bring him home. I put him on the patches. And within the first 3 days, he just started being super calm. And we actually threw away our high chair this last week because he has been able to sit starting the first week until now. He can sit at the dinner table without running and running and running and running. because I would have to literally like hold his hand and hold his arm at the table and just keep saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. And it was exhausting. So we had, tried to put our high chair away, and we'd end up bringing it back up and putting it away and back up. And so he can sit through a meal. He had, within the first 3 days, I was able to cut his hair. And normally that is a terrible experience. Like they're screaming and crying and teeth clenching. And I'm like holding him down, which a lot of parents that their kids are on the spectrum or have sensory processing disorder, they can relate to this traumatic experience of haircuts or nail clipping or teeth brushing. And then he found a pair of nail clippers and had brought them to me and was putting his finger and trying to do it. And I was just like, oh my stars, are you okay? Because you hate nail clipping. And so sure enough, he let me clip all of his nails and just acted like we always do this and it's always fine.
All right, she goes back and repeats kind of the same on it. But to me, it was pretty significant. And so, this will help kiddos in different ways. And I think our body is very smart to know what it needs. And so if it's anxiety, if it's, running around being super hyper and not being able to connect and pay attention, it's definitely helping with that a lot. And the more that you wear it, the more that you will start seeing differences. So I know she talks about 3 days. We can't expect that in 3 days, our body is going to go back and our kiddos are going to be, not going to have any of the symptoms they have. I tell everybody to really commit to at least a 3-month supply at first. You can always try it for 1 month. If you notice no difference within a month, we do have a money back guarantee, or the company does, and you can return it and you can get all of your money back. But I can tell you that where I'm noticing the biggest and the fastest difference, it's either with elderly individuals past 60 and with young kids with autism or neurological issues. Everybody else is seeing differences as well, but the fastest I'm seeing it with those two types of individuals. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, what this whole process is, why maybe this patch, when at first I said, why would it help kiddos if it's activating stem cells? They have lots of stem cells to begin with. Now we know why, and we are seeing more and more and more testimonies about it. So I do recommend that whoever invited you to this, please talk to them. If you have anybody else that you know that has a kiddo on the spectrum or with any neurological disorder, please share with them. I definitely feel like it's an obligation for me. Like, who knows how you can improve the quality of life of someone if I'm not sharing this. So it's not just about a business. Honestly, it is about getting better health for people out there for something as simple as putting on a sticker. Again, yes, absolutely. Every day I wake up and I said, this is like, I don't know, voodoo medicine. I don't know what it is, but I promise you in the last 11 months, both me and my husband have been floored by what we have seen. So if you guys have any specific questions about what we talked about, we have, a couple of minutes. I wanted to finish this at 7:30. It went a little bit further. If not, definitely thank you so much for joining. And I will be sending the recording later. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.